My purpose in purchasing the Sumo Springs are to improve the ride quality. As I go over a speed bump.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
Of the thousands of products and accessories people will try to sell you and tell you that you need for your RV, the category I tend to pay the most attention to are safety-related products. Because with increased safety comes more peace of mind, and that's where the fun starts. We found the right truck with the right amount of capacity, but not so much capacity that it wouldn't be functional or practical as a daily driver. We noticed those habits that come out of the towing environment with a fifth wheel. The chucking, the pogoing, the sway, the fatigue that it created, having to constantly stay alert and aware of that. I looked for solutions that would increase the comfort and help me journey better. Registered trademark. And I looked at all of those previous methods I've employed on other vehicles. Add a leaf springs, airbags, increased tire and rim size, more sophisticated shock systems, multiple shock systems. And then I discovered Sumo Springs, company that makes a product called Sumo Springs. It's a closed cell urethane product that works like a dampener, and they're very easy to install on the vehicles that we have. We know, and we do not have an unrealistic expectation. We know that these springs don't change my pin weights. They don't change my cargo capacities. They don't change my tow capacities. They don't allow me to drive faster. They don't allow me to go further off-road. What they do is butter the ride. They smooth the ride out. They eliminate the pogoing, the chucking, the sway, that sense of reverb that you get through the seat of your pants when you're driving. It's an increase in comfort, which is a reduction in fatigue, knowing the vehicles are riding smoother. I did my research. I contacted the company early on, and I bought a set of these springs for our truck. We did a full install and a road test on those. See the link here. And I give them an A. They were easy to install. They're reliable. The products fit as expected. They did exactly what I hoped they would do, and they've improved my ride. Funny, one area I didn't expect them to enjoy them is coming in and out of the RV resort. There are so many speed bumps that the Sumo Springs take the edge off the speed bumps. I think that's kind of cool. So having such a positive experience with putting a set of Sumo Springs on the tow vehicle, I made the decision I wanted to add them to the fifth wheel. I began communicating with the company, and to my surprise, they offered me a set of these to install on the fifth wheel and to provide a product review. I was very careful in reviewing the expectations of the product review because so many times I would be concerned that there would be encumbrances and unrealistic expectations. Much to my relief, Sumo Springs actually insists on an unbiased, fair review of the product, improvement opportunities, where they might come short, and the things that I really liked. So based on that, I agreed and accepted delivery of these Sumo Springs, and we're going to work on a 3-part series of installing them, road testing them, and then we'll do a durability torture test downrange this summer.
The website interface is user-friendly, and this is important because ordering for the fifth wheel isn't quite like ordering for a regular vehicle. Fortunately, the chat box opened up and the human on the other end was very knowledgeable and helpful. You see, ordering for a car, you give it the year, the make, the model, the equipment, maybe the VIN, and they can tell you, but the range of fifth wheels out there is so diverse that you've got to get some specific information, starting with the gross axle weight rating.
So now that we've established the number of axles that we have, the orientation of the leaf springs to the axle, we need to clarify the height at resting between the top of the plate and the frame rail and the width of this plate. Our target for the width is no wider than 4 1/4. The width on the top of that plate is 3.5. And then the distance at resting between the frame rail and the top of the plate is right in the neighborhood of 5.75 of an inch. And our target range is somewhere between 5.3 and 6.55. So we are set up and we're going to order the
TSS-107-47. These black urethane models are the right weight rating for our axle ratio. The blue would be too light duty. So let's backtrack for just a moment to the suspension under the fifth wheel to talk again about the need for a product like the Super Spring. This is the MoreRide 3000. It's a floating link suspension on leaf springs. You can see this blue cam here is not for shock absorption or ride comfort, but rather to allow the axles to jockey back and forth when turning the RV. You'll see in previous videos we've shown how the wheels will get very close or very far and then straighten back out after driving straight for a while. Going back here to the axle and the leaf spring setup, notice the distinct absence of shock absorbers or any type of travel limiter. So many times we see stories on the internet and YouTube about broken leaf springs, broken axles, bent or collapsed leaf springs. Mostly because of overloading and driving too fast or poor road conditions. So the application of the Super Spring, a closed cell urethane with a progressive spring rate, meaning the more you squeeze it, the stronger it gets. It limits out at about 1,800 pounds per spring. It's been my experience, though, that carefully measuring and creating amount of preload, meaning a little tension on the system at rest, will really increase the ride quality and lend itself towards preventing damage to the system.
I was at the clubhouse and I got a notification that I got a delivery. And there is no better delivery for a gear junkie than parts for the hot rod. So when we do an unboxing video here at Yeti at Large, we do it on the tailgate because we're dealing with tools and gear.
Having already received a package from Super Springs, I have faith this is going to be accurate. The communication for the shipping was excellent. They let me know exactly where my package was and when to expect it. These are 2 sets because we have 2 axles. I confirmed the part numbers matched what I ordered and that both boxes have the same part number. That 47 is important because of the reach underneath the unit and the axle weight rating that I have. I will read the instructions carefully, looking for parts list, tool requirements, and stickers for the toolbox. All the parts are there as calculated. I appreciate them throwing in some blue Loctite. Now let's confirm the height and reach of these to make sure that they're going to physically fit. And when you compare the height of the spring and the 2 nylon bushings that I will use to calculate the perfect preload height, it looks good. No need to open the other box. I'm going on faith. I'm going to put everything back in here and put these away except those instructions.
So why Sumo Springs? Well, my wish list was I wanted the most improvement of my suspension for the least amount of investment. I wanted the lightest system I could find with the least amount of complexity, no added pneumatic, hydraulic, or electric systems. Sumo Springs represented that. Plus, I'm very familiar with closed cell progressive rate urethane type technologies, having prototyped mountain bike parts in the 80s and 90s. We used to use these pedals from Onza that had the same type of technology that would use to release the cleat for the quick release. Early adopters, and the product has come a long way since then. I also had a Moots YBB. Wasn't a true full suspension bike, but it had a articulating rear pivot with a nylon bushing that worked in much the same way. Boy, did it smooth out the ride on the washboards. So coming to the end of the first video, the identifying the need for the product, locating the correct product, ordering it and receiving it, inspecting it to make sure it's the correct one. Anybody who's ordered parts for any kind of a vehicle, airplane, boat, automobile, trailer, knows there are thousands of nuances and it's easy to make mistakes. I believe with their support I have the accurate product for this application and installation. The packaging was par none. The parts they provided were excellent. Agnes, get back in there. With several options, including giving me a little bit of Loctite. I even appreciate that they gave me hose hangers for the propane or water to reroute those if they're in the way. I won't need to use these for my installation application, but I'm going to save these because these could be very valuable for a roadside repair. So now, the neutral stuff. There are a few things that you're going to find with injection molding, having done some vacuum thermal forming, injection molding, plastics, fiberglass in my life. I'm well aware of these and they don't bother me, but I want to point them out. This metal base plate here serves as a cap for the spring. You'll notice there's some overcast from the molding process. This doesn't matter one bit. It can look a little unsightly. I wouldn't be concerned about that at all. The one thing that I would recommend, if you look inside the very bottom of the thread cavity here, you'll see there's a little bit of debris in there. It looks like a blend of the different media that they mix when they form this and measure those. They're very small, and I would recommend taking a Q-tip or something, cleaning this and chasing those threads to get that out of there. Then when you apply your Loctite, you should have a good positive seal. You could even consider taking a razor blade and cleaning this extra molding material off. And now, the one improvement opportunity. But it'd be easier if I show you. Come on. And it has to do with the portion of the instructions where they show you how to measure the gap to be able to get the right amount of spacers to get the proper preload on the springs in the vertical position back there above the axle. Too much gap and you don't engage the spring, don't get the maximum benefit. Too little gap, over preload, and the springs are hard and will roughen the ride. That's not desirable either. Their instructions tell you, measure the current gap from the bottom of the frame to the top of the leaf spring. Do not raise the trailer for this step. What most people might interpret that as is don't put a jack under there and lift the frame. The first time I measured it, it's sitting on my leveling jacks. That could alter that gap between the axle and the frame. They tell you to place the trailer on a hard level surface so the frame is parallel to the ground and chock the wheels for safety. I think they should add a more specific language in here. Since this is going to apply when you're towing it, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the trailer to the truck, bring the leveling pads up, and then I'll put it on the asphalt out there, get it off this gravel that's in every single RV resort spot. And then I'll go under there and remeasure that gap to get the exact amount of preload necessary. I would add some language in the instructions to specifically remind people that when the leveling pads are down, it may alter that throw. So stay tuned. The next video we're going to do, we'll take the igloo out, get you some footage of what the travel on the suspension looks like with no Sumo Springs. We'll remeasure those. Then we're going to go through a complete install, and then we'll show you what the benefit after the fact is. And we'll do some side-by-side comparisons of the travel. We're going to talk about the install procedure, difficulties, challenges, and maybe have some more improvement opportunities. Thank you so much for tuning in to Yeti at Large.